Do you ever feel like if you could get yourself to sit down on the chair, write more articles, produce content faster, just write faster in general, that you could have a better writing career? Do you feel stuck because it's just simply taking you way too long to get from idea to execution to actually having words published out there for the world so that you can build your audience, so that you can make an income, so that you can really build your dream? Do you want to learn how to write faster? Do you want to learn how to become a prolific writer? If so, stay tuned, because I'm going to give you some simple tips that are going to help you write much faster than you're capable of right now. But before I get into those tips, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the little notification bell so you can get brand new videos. That notification bell is very important because it's going to allow you to continue on this blogging journey with me, where I'm going to eventually show you everything I know about the process of building a writing career. One of my keys, one of my secrets to being able to make a living writing the way I do is my ability to write fast and get from idea to execution quickly. On the website medium.com, which I'm constantly banging the drum on, showing writers how to make a living on the platform, one of the things that you are going to have to do in order to be successful is produce articles, blog posts, essays, whatever you want to call them, relatively quickly. If you are not able to publish at least a couple pieces per week, it is going to be difficult for you to build the momentum, to build the audience that you're going to need to have sustained success, not just on those platforms, but as a writer in general. In today's day and age, where we're in a fast-paced, moving social media landscape, website landscape, you are going to need to be out there consistently enough for people to find your work. So how do you write faster? How do you get your ideas to click more quickly so that you can get them on the page? Let's walk through some of my personal favorite tips. Some of these tips are going to be broad bird's eye view ways of looking at how to structure your content, and then some of the tips are going to be things that you can actually do while you're writing. And some people have commented on some of these tips. These are actually things I've taken from a blog post I wrote a while back, and it really had some key aha moments for them that I think will help you. So let's dive into those tips right now. The first tip, it's really, it seems obvious, kind of kick yourself when you hear about it, but the first tip that'll help you write a lot faster is to use placeholders. For example, I talk about writing kind of clever and unique subheadings for each point to make your blog posts more persuasive, right? But I actually never write my subheadings while I'm doing the first draft. So if I'm going to write a new heading, I'll kind of have an idea of what it's going to be about, but I'll add a placeholder that'll say something like add subhead here. And then when I go back through in the second pass, I'll write some of those clever subheadings, so I'm not sitting there spending loads of time on that first draft getting stuck on doing things like that. I will also use little placeholders for things that I know that I have to go and look up and reference later. So one thing that I never ever do while I'm writing is go and look up quotes while I'm doing the first draft. I will always go back and add quotes. I will add facts. I will add statistics. I will add data. I will add whatever I need to add on the second pass. So I will leave little placeholders. So maybe I'll do some brackets and put XXXX in there. Or maybe I'll highlight something red knowing that I need to come back to it later. But I don't have any other tabs open while I'm writing. I'm not researching and looking up things and trying to piece them together as I'm putting together the post. So if you use placeholders for facts, statistics, data, quotes, subheadings, or even points you're wanting to say in an article. So sometimes I'll break things down where I'll try to have 3 supporting bullet points for something. If I can't think of the third one, I'll just come back to it later. What I'm trying to do is always get that first draft done. I want to get from the beginning of the end to the first draft as quickly as possible, because when you switch that writer hat off, you can go back in editing mode and you'll have your editor's hat on, meaning that you can have a more critical eye, and kind of cumulatively it'll take less time, to where if you try to put on the writer and the editor hat at the same time, it is not going to work well. So that is tip number 1, use placeholders. Tip number 2, you want to make sure that you are taking time to articulate what you want to put in the article before you sit down and write. A lot of famous copywriters, people who get paid millions of dollars, some of them, for writing these sales letters, they talk about one of the most important aspects in copy is actually researching what your audience wants, knowing what you're going to say before you sit down and put things on the page. So when it comes to things like writing articles and essays, you are going to do better if you use a bit more of a formulaic process where you are mind mapping things out, where you are creating outlines, where you're structuring what you want to say first, have all of your pieces put together first, and then all you have to do is fill in your outline with the words. That part will actually come very easily and naturally if you take time doing things beforehand. And what a lot of people will do, what a lot of my aspiring writers who are very esoteric about their craft of writing, they'll kind of just sit down and they'll kind of just go and just write whatever they think they want to write at that point. And then they wonder why they get stuck. They wonder why their ideas seem confusing and bloated and why they seem to go in too many directions in one post. And there's a lot of these people who have just endless amounts of like incoherent drafts that never get out there because they don't take time to structure their ideas beforehand. Trust me, I always tell people that learning this kind of traditional blogging style that I teach, being a little bit more formulaic up front, what that does is it teaches you the frameworks that you need to be able to, in the future, write with a more intuitive sense for how to structure your content. Once you do repetitive exercises of formulating the ideas first, then you will be able to have that second nature understanding where you're able to sit down and just write. So now I can sit down, blank page, write something from start to finish without really having to think about everything I need to say up front other than the very, very basic idea. But that was because I practiced putting together outlines for a lot of my posts before I ever sat down to write anything. So if you're not already doing it, outlining is crucial. The next tip that I'll offer for you is if it requires you to start at a different section of your article to be successful, then go ahead and do that. So one of the things that is helpful for me sometimes is skipping kind of straight to the main body points of the article first. Because oftentimes you'll really want to nail that introduction and conclusion because those are kind of the aspects that are going to get people in to read your post and that are going to kind of leave them wanting more, so they'll read you again. So a lot of people, they'll sit down to write and they'll be like very bogged down with how do I open this post? How do I hook the reader? How do I get the interest going? And the next thing you know, you've been sitting there for a half hour thinking of an intro and you haven't written anything. So I'm all for doing whatever it takes to get to the end of that first draft. So I will skip the introduction if that means I'm going to get quickly into writing about the heart of the article. And then after I go through and write the main points, the introduction and the conclusion tend to be much easier to write. And then at that point, I'm already in the flow of writing, and it just makes for a much easier completion of the draft. So start wherever makes the most sense to get you to start writing. The thing you want to avoid you always want to avoid you staring at the blank page, not moving your fingers. Regardless of the tips I put together, you want to be putting words on the page. You never want to be staring directly at the screen. So start at the place that makes the most sense. The next tip I'll offer you is figure out how to get yourself into a flow state as quickly as possible. You will write a lot faster when you enter that flow state, when you enter that deep creative zone, when you enter that space where the words are more just coming out of you as opposed to you having to think super duper hard about everything that you want to say. So how are you going to get yourself into a flow state? Well, one thing that you can do is make sure, and it seems very trivial, but that you're writing in the same time block, preferably in the same kind of environment, kind of using the same routine over and over again, so that you enter that creative space more quickly. This is why things like outlining are important. This is why things like just making sure that you're consistently practicing your writing in general will help you write a lot faster, because when you have more confidence in your skills, you trust yourself more to go in and start writing quickly. So you want to figure out how to get in a flow state. I have a lot of things that I do to help me kind of stay in the right mindset before I sit down and write. I meditate every morning for 20 minutes. That helps me get mental clarity. I write at the time where my brain is most productive, which is in the mornings. I haven't gotten into my day to have too many distractions that'll keep my mind from being focused. I try not to get into too much social media before I write. I try not to have my mind clouded. I want to have an empty, kind of full charged brain before I sit down to write. So structuring your routine in your environment to make it conducive to creativity is actually quite important. I also do things like journaling, and I write down ideas for blog posts every day. So by the time I sit down to write, I've meditated, I've journaled out ideas, I've mapped out what I wanted to put in the article. So by the time I sit down, my brain is just firing, ready to go, and I'm like itching to write. So then I get into it, and I get into that creative state to where I can finish the first draft very quickly. And then, like I said, when you're able to take that writer hat off from that first draft, you can go back and you can edit your work much more easily, much more quickly, and you'll have a finished product right away. And the last thing for me, this is more of kind of an editing tip, but I'm not a proponent of being a perfectionist when it comes to editing. Again, this is about being a prolific writer. This is about getting a lot of content out in a relatively quick amount of time. So for me, a couple things that I keep in mind is that I don't necessarily equate time spent on writing something with quality, meaning that I don't think that I have to sit down and spend 2 weeks writing an article for it to be good. I think I can write a good article in a couple of hours. So people have their own preference as to what they think is quality, but I think that spending 2 to 4 hours on an article, going through this process from start to finish, can yield quality results. And a lot of people do find the quality of my writing to be great. So with that in mind, I use a simple process when I'm editing my articles. I only do 3 phases of my articles when I write them. Phase 1, I will go through and I will do the first draft using those placeholders I talked about, using those areas where I know I'm going to come back and fill in the information later. Then in my second draft, what I go ahead and do is I add that information that was missing, and then I go through and I basically look at each section and I judge each line and I say, does this line need to be there? So this second edit is mostly a process of removal, where I'm removing superfluous phrases, where I'm moving things around a little bit to make the order make sense. And then, of course, like I said earlier, I'm filling in some of those gaps of that information. And then in the last phase, what I'll do is I'll try to put a bow on everything. I might tweak a few sentences. I'll make sure to add any little hyperlinks or stylistic elements that I want to add to the post, and then I hit publish. So this is the process that I use to get an article out almost every single day. Me getting an article out every single day is what has led me to be able to make a full-time living writing, making money on the website medium.com, building a successful personal blog, and much more. So those are some tips that can help you write faster, which will allow you to become a prolific writer, which will help you build your career much more quickly. Okay, next thing I want you to do is go check out some of the links in the description. I have links to a free 5-day course that is going to teach you everything I know about writing on the website medium.com. It's going to give you some of that simple nuts and bolts information that you need to get started. And for those of you who really just want to go all the way, you want to exhaust my knowledge and resources when it comes to Medium, I do have a premium paid program that you can check out below. So for those of you who are really ready to just dive all the way in, you can check that out right away. I also have other resources, things about starting a blog, tools to build your email list. Usually keep links to other videos and articles. So just get your butt down there, look down, scroll down, and check out all those resources below. Lastly, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit that little notification bell so you can get brand new videos when they come out. Smash that like button, leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts, maybe other ideas that you want me to show on video. There will also be some videos popping up in front of your face right now. Make sure you check those out, and I will see you on the next video.